Hello, welcome to Alive or Just Blethering, a podcast where two 30-somethings discuss the music we found and loved growing up. My name is Chris Lavender, and with me is my fellow host, Keith McLeod. Today on Alive or Just Blethering, I'd like to talk about Oh God, the Aftermath by Norma Jean.
Why didn't you make me listen to Wrongdoers, Lav? Why, oh why was this not wrong? I don't answer because I know the answer. Alright? I know why it's not Wrongdoers, but I'm pissed it wasn't Wrongdoers. Hello everyone.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming back. if you're new here, it's great to meet you.
It's great.
This is Alive or Just Blethering, and this is me and my fellow host. We're diving through the archives, going through the old stuff. So this week's episode, I gave Keith a Norma Jean album to listen to.
And it was the wrong goddamn album.
It's safe to say this band has gone through some stuff. But if you want to join the conversation, please reach out to us at AOGB Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or even send us an email. aogb.podcast@gmail.com.
aogb.podcast?
We've discussed this many times, Keith. You could actually send it to aogbp.oddcast. It doesn't matter. You can put the dot anywhere.
I've still not Googled as to how that works, but yes.
So Keith, give us some feelings. Why is Wrongdoers so good? Why is Oh God, the Aftermath not the album you hoped it would be?
Right, listeners, a little peek behind the curtain. I am going to refer to my phone as to when I first listened to this album and I messaged Lav. So this is where I was at. This is how I felt. Right, okay, wait for it. Probably should have found this before. Okay, so I've sent Lav a link to the album. And I've said, first listen, 5 songs in, and I hate this. New line, new message. Hate, new message. This. I hate this. Lav's reply was fuck off, and that's where the conversation went from there. But I just, oh man. Look, I've calmed down a little bit. I've calmed down a little bit since you're losing your shit over there.
I'm so proud of my response. I'm so content.
Get fucked, Keith. This is amazing. No, I know. I get it. I've since calmed down. Do I still hate it? Maybe not. Do I still dislike it immensely? Yes. I do. There's not a lot of what is on this album embodies a lot of what I sort of don't like about the genre, or don't like. I never got into this style of music. I never got into this genre, whatever you want to call this sort of like. What is this? Is it post-hardcore? Is it what is it?
Yeah, post-hardcore would be a sensible tag to give anything that's been released since 2003. But also, I guess I would go down the. It was the first time I would really heard this discordant sort of sound. So for those at home, I know there was a Norma Jean album before this one. I'm going to bring it up soon. But this album was the first time I heard Norma Jean.
And that's what we do here at Alive or Just Blethering. It's the music we found and loved growing up. So you found Norma Jean via Oh God, the Aftermath.
And I liked the album. I really liked the album when I first heard it. It was raw. It was angry. It had passion and emotion and just raw emotion just pouring out of it, and I loved it. And then someone was like, oh, you need to listen to the one that came before and my God, it's a different band. They had a different singer. That was when I discovered Josh Scrogan, and then they got the new singer in Cory for Oh God, the Aftermath. And it starts sort of unraveling of this band Norma Jean. So at the beginning there, Keith mentioning, why didn't we do Wrongdoers? In our opinion, clearly shared opinion, Wrongdoers is the best Norma Jean album. Period.
Yes. I don't know if I can confidently say that because I don't know every album. Wrongdoers is where I found Norma Jean, so there you go. There's my rose-tinted glasses towards that album. But good lord, whether it's the best album or not, it's a hell of a lot more enjoyable than what this was for me.
It's so different. And the thing with Norma Jean with me was that when I first heard Oh God, the Aftermath, I then heard Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child, which is on brain blank.
It's Bless the Martyr, Kiss the... Oh, do you mean the label? Sorry, Solid State.
Right, so what? Bless the Martyr... No, I was right. It was Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child. I couldn't think if I'd got the band name of the song. I heard the song...
Memphis Laid to Waste.
Memphis Laid to Waste, off the album Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child. Now, I listened to that album this week as well, and blimey, that's a fucking great album. And I would love to have mentioned that album, but officially, playing by the rules of the podcast, that was not where I discovered this band. And I thought, officially, I should really start where the story starts. So went back one album, listened to that, loved it, discovered that they changed vocalists, and then discovered that this band had been started by the previous vocalist, Josh. The Chariot, loved The Chariot. The Yanni Depp EP that they released is, magnificent. And everything the Chariot have done has been brilliant. They've never missed a beat. Norma Jean, however, they'd changed vocalists, and Oh God, the Aftermath was great. They followed that up with Redeemer, which was good, and then there was The Anti-Mother, which was fine, and there was 3 albums there that I will stand by. I can't tell the difference about any of those songs on which album they belong on. You could play me a song from Oh God, the Aftermath, from Redeemer, or The Anti-Mother, and I wouldn't have a clue which album it was from.
That's interesting. I don't think I've really heard Redeemer or The Anti-Mother either. From Wrongdoers, I went back to Meridional.
I don't mean that I don't want anyone to take that away as a negative.
Yeah.
It's just that there was no progression in the band's sound.
There are basically 3 albums of the same music.
Effectively, yes. I'm probably going to get a bit of shit for that, but it feels to me, I struggle to tell them apart. Very much the same story on each album. It's harsh, it's brash, kicks the shit out of your fucking ears. It's full of the discordant moments, but it's just constant, I guess. Meridional, there's a glimmer of Wrongdoers in there.
Mm-hmm.
They've got moments where it starts chilling out a bit, if that's one way to put it.
I seem to remember enjoying Meridional. I didn't go back into it as in depth as I did with Wrongdoers and later Polar Similar. But I do remember sort of revisiting that and being like, oh no, this is pretty cool. And really, by the time you hit Wrongdoers, they are an absolutely different band from 2002's Bless the Martyr and Kiss the Child.
Oh, but
even Oh God, the Aftermath.
In sound and lineup.
Yeah, entirely, in more ways than one. So that's sort of where I sit with Norma Jean. I am absolutely a 2010 onwards fan. I've never really been able to go back and enjoy the other stuff. I first was introduced to Norma Jean via Memphis Laid to Waste. Like, I think it's probably, even to this day, so one of their most popular songs. I think I mentioned it on a previous episode. A friend of mine had made a mixtape. There was a lot of like big singles and stuff on that. And Memphis Laid to Waste was on that. I still have a soft spot for that song.
I think there's a lot of nostalgia in that song. The amount of club nights, parties, car journeys where that's been put on.
Yeah, and I love a discord. Like I do, like you just hear that discordant ring, you hear that stab, you hear that Pam Mutuum, like that shit gives me goosebumps on any song. Ironically, not Oh God, the Aftermath,
because it's full of it. I think the problem is they found a formula, and then they just rinsed and repeated it a bit on the whole album. It feels very samey. I struggle to tell some of the songs apart. I remember Beyond Network having, I think it had a video, and I really enjoyed the song, but the rest of the album doesn't really change or deviate away from that for the most part. It's quite an onslaught, and I found it quite a difficult listen, if I'm not lying. It wasn't the resurgent, like, oh, I've not heard this song in a while and I'm fucking two-stepping around the living room or anything like that. It was just this, oh yeah, this was good, and that's about it, really.
So where did you find Oh God, the Aftermath? How were you introduced to this album?
A similar story with the mixtape with yourself, I suppose. A friend of mine gave me a MP3 data disc. So if you want to get technical,
oh no, I know what you mean. Sorry, I totally confused what that meant. But yeah, someone's just burned a bunch of MP3s to a CD.
So if for those at home who are under the age of 25, this is going to blow your mind. You could have a CD, and if you put the songs onto it to play in a standard CD player, it would hold 74 or 80 minutes of music. If you saved songs to a CD as files, you could have a data disk, and you could have up to, 650 megabytes? You know, over half a gig on a single CD. Maybe 750 megabytes.
Yeah, there were 750. The discs were 750.
So if essentially a friend of mine gave me just a wedge of music. Parkway Drive was on it. This was on it. And there's lots of stuff that we can probably talk about. It even was the first time I heard Devil Sold His Soul. That was on it as well.
Ooh.
This was a really good CD. It was the best, great introduction. I told them what I was listening to at the time. I'd been listening to things like Poison the Well and Comeback Kid, and they were like, got you fam, and handed me this disc. And then,
say no more, bro. Say no more.
Yeah, that was it. It was like ticking boxes on a Facebook. Tick some pages that you like and we'll recommend you some more. Yep. And there was it. Bosh. The original Spotify, Campbell Parker. So he gave me this, and that was my in. And then it developed from there. I listened to some of the bands on it, and then I was being told that you should be listening to the older stuff. And yeah, it just sort of snowballed, I guess. And it was always amazing to me how I heard Norma Jean at the same time as I heard The Chariot. And those bands,
course, both Josh Grogan.
Exactly, and how much I really liked him. But then I got to see The Chariot live supporting Architects.
Mm-hmm.
So there's my first link. The next thing was at the same time, roughly the same time, Converge released their album No Heroes,
mm-hmm.
which is basically Norma Jean on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, you then, with what we were talking about with Norma Jean in 2013, they're releasing Wrongdoers, Polar Similar a few years later. In the middle, was it in the middle or was it after Polar Similar? Cory from Norma Jean goes and starts for want of a better word, if anyone listened to the Audio Slave episode, a supergroup. And we
love a supergroup on AOGB. It's been a while since we've had a supergroup, man.
It is, and if we're talking about 2017 albums, I'd probably bring 100 Suns, the Peristalsis on.
Sure.
Fucking great album. You've got Norma Jean, X Every Time I Die, you've got Legs on drums. Beautiful album. Very much in the same vein as Polar Similar and Wrongdoers in that sort of evolution. And then they've gone on to do All Hail, their last album in 2019. And it's out of those four albums, flawless albums, can listen to from end to end. No complaints. Great albums.
So where do you stand now with Oh God, the Aftermath? How has Oh God, the Aftermath aged in the 17 years since it was released on March 1st, 2005?
Poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's you mentioned this before we were recording. It was the sound at the time.
Right. There's a specific sound I'm going to talk about on this album that I loathe. That on my first listening, I couldn't get past it in 2005, and I couldn't get past it in 2022 either.
So we've mentioned this is Cory's first album with Norma Jean. Now, Norma Jean, they'd been going since 1997 as Ludacris, with Josh on vocals.
Luda!
Whether they were a different band, but we're not talking about them today. But Josh, he'd left after Bless the Heart, Kiss the Child, and Cory stepped in. And I think Cory's trying a little bit too hard to sound like Josh.
Agreed. The vocals on this album are absolutely what's the word I'm looking for?
Mince.
Not restrained, or they're conflicted. They're I wanted to say ham-fisted. He's trying too hard to sound like Josh Groban. And this is the style of vocal that absolutely did my head in at the time. And I can hear it now on Memphis Laid to Waste. And it's almost like the vocalists are screaming through their hands into the microphone, and it just sounds really compressed, and it's the same tone throughout the entire fucking song, and it never changes. You come on to Wrongdoers, and Cory's an incredible, in fact, go back earlier, Cory's an incredible vocalist on his own. But they obviously had a style at this time, circa 2002 to 2005, and he's trying to do that style. I don't think it works for him at all. Well, at least it doesn't work for me. And quite clearly, they changed their style so much later on that it's unrecognizable from what this is.
Definitely, I agree entirely. It's that cupped mic sound. It's almost like they're trying to translate what they would do on stage onto the record in the studio, but that's not how it works. You need to record properly, enunciate in a vocal booth, and get it recorded well. And that sound like that, that muffled is the vocals are very muffled, and I think the guitar tones are a little bit muted. And I don't mean palm muted. I mean just they're a bit, maybe not in a great place in the mix. And I was absolutely stunned. And I don't use the word lightly, stunned, to find out who had produced this album.
You and me both, buddy.
Blimey, Matt Bales, you are. If you're not listening, but I'm going to say it anyway. You are the producer of some of, if not my favorite albums.
Agreed. Second.
I mean, okay, he has an assistant. We'll start from the beginning. He's got an assistant credit on one of the best recorded Alice in Chains album, the self-titled Tripod, if you will. He's done like 3 Caspian albums. All the
Walking Season, Him for the Greatest Generation, and Dust and Disquiet.
ISIS, Make Do and Mend, Mastodon. Oh my God.
Mastodon, Leviathan, Blood Mountain, and Remissions. ISIS, Celestial, Oceanic, Panopticon, and In the Absence of Truth. And this is just his selected discography. He did Oh God, the Aftermath, Masters of Horror soundtrack.
He's done a lot of good shit as producer, mixer, and engineer. So he's clearly picked up some skills, and shout out to fucking Matt Bales. You have got your shit together. He was an assistant on Around the Fur as well, so he's clearly been around the scene for a long time and knows what he needs to do.
But to be brutally honest, I do not appreciate this album sonically.
Sonically, I really struggle with this album. I agree. I think it take the nostalgia away from it for me. I have a lot of nostalgia for it because it was the first time I heard Norma Jean, and I love the song Beyond Network. I think it's got a really good rhythm and pace about it that just gets my head nodding every time. The rest of the album is much the same. It does give me a bit of that harking back to the days of throwing some limbs around. But
we had a disagreement about the meaning of the word two-step, didn't we?
We did, and I think you have this like alternate picking idea of two-step. Sort of, I'm imagining like Art of American Football style, like that. I don't know how to that punk beat, that punk rhythm.
Yeah, two-step to me is like a punk thing. It's like that. That's sort of how I always understood it. And then when you sort of were like, no, it's you tell me what you thought two-step was, because then I had a really funny thing.
It's just like a bit slower. So in Beyond Network, it's got I love the rhythm of the dun 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 dun. There's no other way I can put it.
So the listeners can't see what you're doing now, but I can, right? So you physically started moving in your chair. You started throwing like fist after fist, right? You started rocking your shoulders, and you would do that thing with your feet, right? You would throw them in front of each other and kick them back out.
Yeah.
You were a fucking TikToker, Lav. That's what that was. I used to hate guys that did that.
What, actually dance?
No, just do these like redundant little moves. Like, I saw that stuff in clubs and I was just like, oh man. Like, I didn't. This is why I stopped going out.
This is why I don't like people.
This is why I stopped going to nightclubs. This is why I stopped doing this stuff. Like, think about it these days. That dance move is probably already on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was funny, because that was maybe this is just my my inner rejection coming out years later, but I just never got into that scene. I never felt welcome. No, I just never felt like I wanted to be in that, and I just just to turn up to a song and do like the same dance move throughout, like as if that was like part of the club. I was just like, oh no, fuck this. Like this is awful.
I have to say, it couldn't go on forever, and it's a young person's game. So
absolutely, we are not young people anymore.
I am out of breath within seconds doing that in real life these days. So if I want to give myself a heart attack, if I fancy committing suicide, I'll try and two-step for the entirety of Beyond Network. That'll be when I'm done.
Now, full disclosure to stupid dance moves: if you want to do a rowboat, if you want to do like the saw across the dance floor, if you want to do a human pyramid, I'm your man. I'll be that idiot. Like, I will do that shit. But yeah, just the whole two-step stuff and that, like, it just, I saw it and I was like, I'm gonna go away to the bar. Yeah, there you go. I just thought that was funny. I just thought that these days that would be a TikTok.
Probably would. It'd blend in really well.
It would blend in really
TikTok
well. So you're talking about Beyond Network. That's track 3, Beyond, and I don't get the track names. Everything's got like a weird amalgamated name: Coffin Spire, Liar Scenic, and then it's got a colon, and it's got Disconnect 8 colon The Faithful Vampire, Abysmental colon Street Calm. I'm not quite in on whatever that's supposed to be. Oh wait, hang on. The words feature on the CD cover are lyrics to the songs. Blah blah blah. Oh,
they're all portmanteaus, so the blend of words with multiple words. It's all just gibberish, effectively.
Great, good to know. So on those tracks, though, yeah, you sort of sent me Beyond Network, and as a sort of like, give this album another chance, listen to this song, that started our two-step conversation, and I was just like, lol. But and I listened to what I did actually was listen to it on a different system, because I started listening to the system and started to listen to this album in my car. So I listened to this on a different system, and I was actually like, oh, that's not so bad. Track 3, Beyond Network, not actually so bad, but it has the and I identified what it was about that song that's different is the chorus sounds like it's actually Cory in the chorus. It doesn't maintain the scream throughout, or like the harsh growl. Like, he actually sort of comes into his sort of strained clean, and I was just like, all right, now cool, I can appreciate that a little bit. And then it was track 10, Pretendever, in reference to a sinking ship. Genuinely, not even much of that song stands out to me, apart from the end, where I think they just like drop a tune in the middle of the song, and it totally goes into like a gent riff.
Yeah.
Bow, or something like that, whatever it is. Like, that sort of stood out to me. I was like, oh, there's something different. There's a change. There's it's not like you were sort of saying, the songs do bleed into one another. You can't tell the difference between one song from 3 different albums. Well, track 10 and track 3 have things that stood out to me and made me check my phone, and I was like, cool. The rest of it, I was like, oh god, this is painful to try and power through.
Yeah. I have to say, I listened to, so this week I mentioned I listened to Bless the Mark as a Child. That album is much more dynamic. It's just got a lot more variance and just better shades, if that's a word for it. Like, it just, I would recommend anybody who's a Norma Jean fan just to compare the two side by side. And if you weren't around at the time, you'll recognize it pretty quickly that Bless the Mark Kiss the Child was clearly the result of 5 guys who'd been playing together for years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the result of, they'd had an album previously already under the guise of Ludacris.
And also produced by
Mr. D himself.
Adam D and Norma Jean credited as the producers for Bless the Mark Kiss the Child. Interesting.
And it goes to show it's a much better album overall, like, in so many ways. And I remember people telling me that back in 2005, and I couldn't really see it. And I must admit, it's only this recent week that I've really put the two side by side and gone, fuck me, this album stands the test of time. Bless the Mark Kiss the Child is the better early album. And I have to again say, I don't want people thinking that I'm shitting on Anti-Mother or Redeemer at all. Those are 2 very good albums with excellent artwork on I think it's Redeemer. Is that the one? I get the even the artwork mixed up.
Well, funny you should say that, because Oh God, the Aftermath was the artwork for that album was nominated for a Grammy.
Yeah, and it was done by the same guy who did the artwork for Poison the Well, Tear from the Red.
A guy called Ryan Clark. So Ryan was an American graphic designer and musician who has also performed using the stage name Maven. He is known as the lead vocalist for Christian metal band Demon Hunter. I want to know I've heard of Demon Hunter. I want to say I've heard of Demon Hunter, but I don't know that I've listened to them.
I definitely have a compilation CD from 2002 with Demon Hunter on.
They're still going. They're from 2000 to present. Ryan Clark is still the vocalist, so they're still a boot.
Interestingly, though, with Norma Jean, they have had quite the lineup shift.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spoke already about Josh leaving and being replaced by Cory. That really does set the tone for the rest of these albums. I'm just looking at their Wikipedia now, and it's like looking at the guitar tabs from Guitar Hero, because it's just changes and steps, and I'm even from. So obviously, Bless the Martyr, they changed vocalist onto Oh God, the Aftermath. They kept the same lineup for 2 albums. So Oh God, the Aftermath and then would that be Redeemer that came afterwards? It's not been.
Redeemer 2006, yeah. The Anti-Mother 2008.
So yeah, the artwork for Redeemer, I really like the artwork for that. That image of someone being attacked by a raven.
That is quite. That is very recognizable. Like I know that image, and I might not have been able to have originally have said I know that as a Norma Jean image.
And so they kept the same lineup for that. So it does feel like the albums do sort of bleed across each other. Really good. I think there's some improvements in the recording and the production work, which makes it a little bit more sonically accessible, I should say.
Okay.
They then, for the next album, Redeemer, they changed drummer.
Yep.
And then they kept him for 2 albums, so he was on both Redeemer and Meridional. And whatever happened after the Meridional sessions, they then basically everyone left except Cory and Chris Day. So
who then shortly left the next album.
Yeah,
but then came back.
Oh, that was Philip. That was Philip Faris. So yeah, if anyone wants to have a look at the lineup changes, and this is what surprised me most is like why was Wrongdoers such a seminal moment in their discography? Where did it come from? And clearly, it came from 3 band members leaving and being replaced. There was
a massive change.
Whether one person was able to influence the band some more. I don't want to point fingers. It's probably Cory though, because when you look at what came after Wrongdoers, Polar Similar, and the aforementioned 100 Sons album, The Peristalsis, clearly he has gained some sort of traction because he's the only common denominator across all those albums that I can put a finger on, that he's creatively, whether he's creatively hit a stride or been able to make decisions that another band member was perhaps preventing him from doing. I don't know. We're not in those conversations. But with a change of lead guitarist in 2013, in 2011, they must have been working towards something big, and Wrongdoers to me was that album because it brought me back in. I'd put Norma Jean aside by that stage. After Redeemer, I was a bit like, I can't take another album of this. I'm not really that interested.
Yep.
Wrongdoers pulled me back in, big style.
Yeah, they were sort of really what introduced me back into the band. But I suppose what I wanted to say about the change of lineup, as we always say, we'll never know. We're not privy to these conversations, etc. But almost embarrassingly, Norma Jean, through conversation with friends and stuff like that, were sort of the first band I came to realise were not a full-time band. As far as I'm aware, Norma Jean are not a full-time band. Essentially, these guys will do an album, record an album, do a cycle, and they go back to day jobs. They're not 100% touring, recording, playing gigs. Like, this isn't a 100% moneymaker for them. They're essentially a part-time band, and that just sort of blew my mind a little bit. That the idea of a band not being full-time. Like, I've known of these guys since 2003. Friends of ours consistently listen to and recommend Norma Jean. Like, they've always been a band I've been aware of and I know have been active. But then to sort of realise, well, actually, these guys actually can only manage this part-time, because at the end of the day, these guys aren't topping charts here. They're not. They can't be making loads of money off of this. So if if the rotation of members is so much because essentially there's not that much of a living to be made here, it starts to make a bit more sense as to why there is such a rotating door of members. But it does also sort of, and this is purely me. This is just my sort of interpretations here. I talked about this with the still remains episodes. Sort of certain red flags about rotating members and stuff like that. There is no original member of Norma Jean left in the band. Cory's the longest serving member of the band, but he's also their third vocalist. Technically, there was a vocalist in between him and Josh for about 18 months.
Probably like one tour.
Yeah, a guy by the name of Brad Norris. He didn't stay for very long, and then Cory's came over. If it sounds like I'm being harsh on Cory, I'm not. I think he's an incredible vocalist. You know, Wrongdoers onwards, or yeah, like he's grown into his own. Yeah, he is his own vocalist, as we sort of said. I think he's ham-fisted by. That's not the right expression here, but he's restrained by what the style was at the time, and he has became so much better later on in his career. I do really like Cory, but to think of Norma Jean as a whole, to think of the 8 studio albums that they have released, something in my head can't really appreciate the band Norma Jean because they don't really exist.
I mean, they do exist, but just they exist on a different level to what you're used to, or what your expectations are.
Well, yeah, no, entirely. That's what I mean. Like, it's my interpretation. So the band that wrote Wrongdoers in 2013 didn't write All Hail in 2019. The band that wrote All Hail in 2019 didn't write Redeemer in 2006. It's such a rotating list of musicians that it just throws me out of the sort of concept of a band.
Yeah.
Fair or not, I'm not criticizing them for it. I'm not these individual people. But it just does take me out a little bit, and I wonder if that's why I never went back to All Hail. Because I thought Wrongdoers and Polar Summer were amazing. But something about it didn't take me back to All Hail.
Fair enough. I think the bands are like this. If you're not basically on the road 24/7, 365 days a year, there isn't a living to be made. So they've got lives. So whether you're...
Might have families, might have things to take care of, etc.
Families, mortgages, bills to pay, and touring, like I said, unless you are doing it relentlessly, doesn't offer that security. And if you want to do it for the passion, do it for the love, I'm all for it. But it's no
100%.
different. It's no different to us being in bands as kids and doing a few dates at the weekend.
Oh yeah, only these guys are way better.
Although these guys are obviously doing it to another level.
Look at what happened to... Sorry.
This is essentially what we start as and what we recognise as that DIY sort of essence. They go out, they'll do a weekend, they'll take 2 weeks off work to do a tour of an area, whether it be Asia, Europe, or the States, do it, and then go back to work. And then...
Yeah, entirely.
And like I said, they've not released an album now since 2019's All Hail. There's been nothing on the socials, as far as I can remember, of seeing anything about them doing anything new. So, again, we'll no doubt see when the almighty Norma Jean decide to grace us with some new tunes.
Yeah, I mean, look at Ed Gibbs, for example. We mentioned Devil Sold His Soul earlier. Ed Gibbs, the original vocalist for Devil Sold His Soul, he's back in the band, but he did leave for a while. And he basically said, I'm fed up being poor. Like, I remember a video of him as sort of explaining as to why he left, and he's like, I'm fed up being skin. Like, the band doesn't make a lot of money. It's not enough to live on. So, I'm leaving to go earn a living for myself. Why he came back, I'm not entirely sure. I'm very glad he came back. But nothing against Paul Green. You're great. I just really like Ed as well. So you know, and that will never detract from the music for me. Like the fact that these guys have to have like day jobs and can't commit to 100% band and stuff like that, not a problem. That's cool. Like I'm trying to say, the constant rotation, the different musicians, which has resulted in different styles. Like you're saying, Wrongdoers, what was the massive shift? Well, 3 original band members left, and we had 3 different guys come in, and we almost got a completely different sounding band. Just knocks me out a little bit. Just takes me out of it, out of the ethos, out of the concept of what, at least in my head, Norma Jean is.
Yeah.
rightly or wrongly, I'm not saying it's a criticism, I'm not saying it's shit. It's just affected my listening, as it has done with other bands. Insert Still Remains, a band that I fucking love.
Yeah, you do enjoy them. Because they're the poster child for great first album, fucking weird second album.
Weird. We both went weird there. Yeah.
And I can't. And the only thing that changed is pretty much the entire lineup. Yeah,
precisely. Red flags.
It's a shame when it happens, and they clearly had some chemistry at the beginning. This chemistry of how these bands interact in the studio is going to come through on an album. Clearly, you've got someone like Adam D producing it. He's got a vision that he wants for Bless the Martyr. Then they change band, they change lineup, and they get a different producer, and they've got their own vision, and they might not be aware of the shit that's going on in the background as well.
Norma Jean did post, sorry to completely interrupt you there, Norma Jean did post 13th of May.
Oh, they're posting. They're clearly live on the socials, but they're still pushing All Hail. That's their thing.
Yeah.
They've not put any kind of new tracks out or anything of that, anything to speak of for that. So Josh Scrogan, he went on to start the Chariot, and them too, they went through their fair share of members, but they officially called it a day after in 2014, 2013.
2013, apparently.
Yeah, they officially give it an end date, which is probably a good thing. And then, Josh went off to start the 68, who I think are great. They're a band, they're releasing albums, and they're fucking excellent albums. I love 68. If anyone wants something that's grungy, but hardcore, with noise and stuff, give them a listen. They released just an album just last year, Give One Take One, and 2 parts Viper before that, and In Humor and Sadness. All excellent albums. I would highly, highly recommend them.
So there's another point to the vocals on this album, Oh God, the Aftermath, and the style and what it was at the time. We've talked about how Cory is a completely different vocalist, has came into his own style, his own sound, and is a very recognisable, unique vocalist today. I nearly had a heart attack when you told me Josh Scrogan was in All This, was the other vocalist on All This and War from Every Time I Die's Radical. I love that song, and I think I recommended it. I was like, man, All This and War, it's just so good. I cannot get over how good this song is. And you're like, oh yeah, Josh Scrogan's on that, and I'm like, who the hell's Josh Scrogan? And you were like, Chariot, Norma Jean, and I nearly died because I don't like Josh Scrogan because the only thing I know about Josh Scrogan is Memphis Laid to Waste. It's that vocals that I'm talking about. That I don't know if that's going to come through on the microphone, but But even Josh Scrogan has removed himself so far from that style that I didn't even recognise that was the same guy.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's insane that's the same vocalist. And I've never gotten into the Chariot, and I've never even really knew about the 69, to be fair, until
68.
Whatever. Because I just, it's actually funny. For whatever it was about the original Norma Jean, Memphis Laid to Waste, blah blah blah, something about that album irked me. Something about that vocal style irked me. I didn't like it, and I didn't want to know anything about it. And then a friend of ours showed me the video from the Chariot for David Della Hoz, the song David Della Hoz, and it's supposed to be like a one take going through a studio, blah blah blah. And I remember watching it and just thinking, this guy's a dick. There seems to be like an arrogance or an ego there. Whether it's all an act or what, I don't know. But they're just I have this memory of not appreciating that, and that not being for me, and I've always distanced myself from it. But All This and War slaps, and I love it.
Every frontman has to have a level of ego about them. They want to be in front of people. They're performers. They are drama. They're into that. They need to be that. And You end up making
bracket narcissists.
whether they've got that, sociopathic, narcissistic. They love themselves so much they need the applause. They need it. That's what fills them.
What does that say to us who started the podcast?
Well, no one fucking listens, so it's clearly not working, is it?
It's definitely not narcissism. It's just us talking.
Exactly. There's a difference.
Yeah, so that's another thing. And I never really followed Josh Grogan. I didn't really care for the Chariot. I was fully aware of who he was. You've also mentioned another band, Converge. I don't know if you mentioned them in the podcast, but when we were talking about this, you were saying this sort of introduction to Norma Jean took you into bands like the Chariot via Josh Grogan. It took you into bands like Converge.
Mm-hmm. So my first ever time I heard Norma Jean was really the first time I sort of can visually remember hearing that discord, that sound that you mentioned there, that, gets your blood pumping. When I heard Converge's No Heroes, so again, listeners at home, I'm sorry, I didn't hear Jane Doe when it got released. I didn't hear the good shit, and I heard No Heroes first, and that was just like, I don't know how to describe it. As if you've ever seen the film The Lorax, a kids film.
Oh my god!
There's a moment when they're doing like a fresh air advert because there's no air. It's a very environmental sort of message film, but they're getting fresh air and they open up this bottle. I'm gonna have to demonstrate for Keith, and they just open up a bottle of fresh air and it just blows their face off. That is exactly what listening to Converge is. Or, just that scene where there's just a speaker and your fucking hair's going backwards. And that's listening to Converge to me. It's like listening to music at 1,000 miles per hour. It is just unrelenting. It's exhausting to listen to, and I love it. But I didn't know about that type of music. It started with Norma Jean.
So, round about the same time I was introduced to Norma Jean, I was probably introduced to Converge as well. And you will be utterly shocked to surprised, or utterly surprised to know, I hated it too. Didn't like it. It's that, there was just something about it, whether it was that, I like a discord, but that's maybe not to say at the time I liked discordant music. Mm-hmm. It is that, Still Remains drop discords into their music. But Norma Jean and Converge and Still Remains are 1,000 miles apart. It wasn't until 2017's Dark in Us by Converge starts off with
Dusk in Us.
Sorry, the Dusk in Us.
Oh, magnificent album.
I heard that album single tier and I was in from there. I was like, oh, I missed something here because this is holy moly.
I would say Converge for me was it, what's the name? Axe to Fall is the album that was like, I heard No Heroes, and then I heard in 2006ish, and I think the following album, Axe to Fall, was the one that proper drew me in, and then I went back to Jane Doe and some of their earlier work and realised how much I'd been missing out on. That was a bit of an eye opener for me. Because I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be like, I was listening to Jane Doe the day it was released. No, I wasn't. In 2001, I was listening to fucking Linkin Park. So, like, you try connecting that dot. Ain't gonna happen. Exactly.
Parkour.
So I went on to, it took me getting to Norma Jean to listen to chaotic music, chaotic light music, and then you hear true chaos, and you're like, oh, fuck me. Took me by surprise.
True chaos.
But yeah, I think it was a good album for the time. 2022 specs on. I see the flaws, and Norma Jean really came into their own for me, as with you, in 2013 with Wrongdoers. I can't escape that.
Much later on. No, same. I mean, let's look at where I was in 2005, 2006. I was listening to bands like Protest the Hero, Dream Theater, etc. There's to compare those bands with your Norma Jeans and your Converges and stuff like that, you know that's just two different rooms in a nightclub, isn't it? You know, you're not playing that stuff together. Like that Protest the Hero are downstairs at the studios, Studio 24, and Norma Jean and Converge are upstairs at the studios. That's how that would have worked if they were played. And if you get that metaphor, you get that metaphor.
I would even go as far to say Norma Jean are Sunday night at the Cowgate and Protest the Hero in Dream Theatres and things are at the studios, if anyone wants to.
Oh, well, to be fair, Dream Theatre was never played, and maybe not even Protest the Hero were played. But it's just two different places. So that's the place I was in 2005, 2006. I was more into my sort of prog metal than this sort of post-melodic hardcore, this level of stuff. I obviously found it later on in life, but it took me back to a lot of times where like I was sort of made to listen to this stuff, and I was just like, I fucking hate it. Someone put on Blindfold Society, please.
Bless you.
You know, like let me. This is one thing that I am absolutely unashamed to say. I fucking love a sing along. All right, I love a sing along. I love something I can just put on and pretend to belt out. And this was not one of those albums for me, really.
Yeah, I'll give it. It's not good. It's not a singing album.
Nah, because you don't know what the cunt's saying.
However, you will have in one time in your life given it absolute big licks. Singing along to Memphis Will Be Laid to Waste.
Oh, windmilling in, like, just absolutely, just not even knowing what's going on, but just throwing your entire body back and forth.
Singing You're Doing the Waltz with Your Murderer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why the fuck not? Yeah, so that's probably where I'm at. I genuinely have a lot of time for Norma Jean from 2010 onwards. This album in particular was not much for me to go back on. I did not enjoy it. I would like to not hear it again.
And with that, let's move into our one and only segment.
What are you listening to?
So, outside of Norma Jean, what have you been listening to, Keith?
Not a lot. Again, I feel like we've shot ourselves in the foot here because I barely have enough time to listen to the podcast topic, let alone anything extra. But one name I will drop because once again I was back in the homeland this weekend for another wedding.
Christ, you're busy.
Congratulations, Alison and Colin. It was a beautiful day. Thanks for having us. And I met up with previous podcast guest Gaz Clinton.
Of course
Gaz
you would,
was at the wedding.
It's her brother.
it was his sister getting married, so Gaz and I had a good chat. It was great to see him again, and he did a couple of tunes with the band that I unfortunately missed because reasons. I was outside probably drinking or whatever, so that was a bit shit. But yeah, it was cool to see Gaz. So, and the wedding band did a really good Everlong. It was Matt Gloss and the Emulsions, actually. It was your wedding band.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, they're good.
It was, and they did. I just remember them doing a really, really good Everlong by Foo Fighters. But anyway, what have I been listening to apart from wedding band music? I'm just going to name drop Kids in Glass Houses.
Okay.
I put on.
Where did that come from?
Well, I was just driving. We were just driving home, driving down the M6. And the missus is like, let's put on some music. And I was like, okay. And a couple of months ago, I sort of just, when I was, driving the other way, when I was driving north, I listened to Kids in Glass Houses and I listened to You, Me at 6 because there's a You, Me at 6 album I really like as well. So I just said to Han, I was like, well, what do you want to listen to? Pick between You, Me at 6 or Kids in Glass Houses. Now, she doesn't know either of these bands, so she went Kids in Glass Houses. And I was like, right, okay, pick between... I think it's Smart Casual or Dirty, the two albums. And she went Smart Casual. So we drove home listening to Smart Casual, and I basically know all the words to at least the first 8 songs of that album. So I was having an absolutely great time. So Yeah, I may even cover them on the podcast because those their first two albums are amazing. They're just really good, consistent albums, and maybe kind of like what I was saying about Still Remains. No one, I don't feel those guys really got the credit they deserved.
Okay, yeah, it was a band I was aware of. I never really listened to them myself. Just aware they existed and moved on from there, really.
Nah, fair play. I think I did previously name drop them when we had Ped on. When we did Funeral for a Friend, and we were talking about Welsh music and Welsh bands and stuff like that. And I definitely noticed Ped gives me a little nod, like, oh yeah, kids in glass houses, totally. So yeah, they were just a really cool band. And considering I didn't really listen to much else this week, I thought I would name Kids in Glass Houses as something I listen to. What about yourself?
There's been a band I've been sort of following for the last couple of months because they didn't have an album. They've released their debut album just this week, Static Dress. They released their album Rogue Carpet Disaster. And nice. I have to say, Keith, I would highly recommend you listen to it. It is basically, I can't, I'm putting my 35-year-old, I'm putting my mid-30s hat on here.
Sorry, what are they called? Just for the listeners?
Static Dress. They're an English band, and they basically sound like all the emo bands, all the screamo bands that you listened to circa 2002 to 2005.
Interesting.
You've literally got, there's influences in there from The Used, Taking Back Sunday, Funeral for a Friend. It's all in there, and I strongly recommend anyone who's not listened to them go and listen to them. They are brilliant, and that's their album just come out. They're from Leeds.
Rogue Carpet Disaster.
They're a Leeds band. I've been listening to the odd song as it's been getting released, and that's the album just dropped this week, and it's everything I wanted it to be. Great all album. Right. And outside of that, I did end up listening quite a bit to Touche Amore.
Oh, okay.
Just because. And you can literally fire through an album in 20 minutes. They know how to write an album. I love it.
No, that's cool, man. I mean, I'm aware of Touche Amore. I don't know if I've really delved deep into that, but
you can do it. You can literally listen to the discography in an afternoon.
Nice.
But yeah,
lovely. Does that wrap us up for Oh God, the Aftermath by Norma Jean?
I think so. I think we've been pretty concise in our judgment on it. I think next week it's yourself.
It's yourself. Yeah. What am I going to do? I'll bloody tell you what I'm going to do. A band we've talked about a couple times, or at least mentioned a couple times. I think I am personally done with 2005. I'm a bit conflicted about that album. We'll maybe talk about them later. But let's say I am going to talk about Death Pop Romance by Raunchy. Now that's going to be a really short episode because almost nothing's known about this band.
Similar story that Still Remains.
Yeah.
Well, similar in the ideal that there's no one talks about them anymore.
Yeah. And this is why I started the podcast, because I'm like, I listen to a lot of good bands and no one listens to them. Maybe I don't listen to a lot of good bands. Maybe I'm the problem here. But Death Pop Romance again sums up where I was at the time. Introduced to that by my then bandmates who that band was very influential on me at that time and introduced me to a lot of music. Raunchy are a Danish band. Death Pop Romance, I think, is their second album, and I followed them throughout. They've not released an album since 2014. Fucking hell, they've not released an album in 8 years. But I'll tell you what, their 2008 album was okay, their 2010 album was incredible, and their 2014 album was unbelievable with a different vocalist. So maybe we can just talk about Raunchy.
Bring the conversation. I remember listening to Death Pop Romance. I remember it existing. Next.
Right. If you've not heard any of their albums, I thoroughly recommend at least check out 2010's A Discord Electric and 2014's Vices, Virtues, and Visions. You could maybe skip Wasteland Discotheque.
Okay, maybe I will.
But yep, just to save yourself some time. If you're a bit short, go back to that last if you have some time. But definitely, let's talk about Death Pop Romance by Raunchy.
Let's do it. Okay, well,
I think everyone in the band's called Casper. It's quite funny.
They're all the friendly ghost.
Lav, will you please take us home?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We have been Alive or Just Blethering. Please do check us out on our socials at AOGB Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Next week on Alive or Just Blethering, Keith is going to be bringing Raunchy, Death Pop Romance. See you then.
Just a tip, don't Google Raunchy by itself. Good night.
Good night.